When I was set out to speak tonight, I thought about what was the story that I was going to tell. And I was going to tell you the story about how I've expanded the way that I direct and see art as my body atrophies from Charcot-Marie tooth disease. But as I continued to work on this PechaKucha, it took me on a different journey. And I started to ask, what is the story that needs to be told? So, I first need to tell you that I have Charcot-Marie tooth disease, or CMT. And that is a mouthful. But it is a neuropathic muscular atrophying disease that is isolated to the extremities. And so CMT1A, which I have, is a duplication mutation in the 17th chromosome. And basically what happens is over the years, the myelin sheath in the nerve cells in those muscles deteriorates, and the electrical pulse coming from the brain dissipates into the surrounding muscle, causing severe cramping, nerve pain, and pulsations until it dies. And it leaves this weird, hollow, odd feeling in that area that was just filled with intense pain. So the first story that I wanted to tell you was about the first instrument I ever got, which ended up being a snare drum for Christmas. And how 15 years later, after getting that snare drum, I would find out that music was the one thing that no one could take away from me. I also then thought about telling you the story of how I wanted to be a dentist since I was in first grade, and I pursued that all the way into a pre-dental and theater double major. And then I thought about telling you about how I was raised by amazing parents in Upper Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Yeah, right? Awesome. And my journey that brought me here to Florida at Rollins College, where I had that double major. And how, when I was there was one professor who repeatedly failed me because she couldn't see my disease and because I wouldn't handwrite my listening journals. Then I asked myself, what was the story that I needed to tell? Well, I wanted to tell you that currently I am working on expanding my life in different ways by working on a new app called Stager that I'm hugely passionate about. But again, I realized that's not the story that I needed to tell. I wanted to tell you about a show that I did called Post Everything. That was a durational, immersive experience, theatrical experience that I performed in and helped devise here and internationally in Varna, Bulgaria, and how that was probably my final durational performance. And again, I started to realize that the story that I wanted to tell may not be the story that I needed to tell. I wanted to tell you about directing shows locally like Phantasmagoria or The Pillow Man, or creating pieces for Art in Odd Places or Creative City Project, or any number of the 80-plus shows that I've directed, designed, devised, or created in the last 18 years of my life. But again, that wasn't the story I needed to tell. And it was in that moment that I knew I needed to tell you that when I was 19 years old, working on Much Ado About Nothing at Rollins College, I was walking out the front door of my house and I broke the 5th metatarsal in my left foot. And at that rehearsal, the choreographer grabbed me and said, "Why are you favoring your left foot?" And she instantly could tell it was broken. And after the doctors at Jewett Orthopedic Clinic cut off my cast, he said to me, "You have CMT." I said, "What?" And there, standing in my neurologist's office, a 20-year-old who felt unstoppable on top of the world, he told me that I would be in a wheelchair at 35. Suddenly, I was on a timeline. I was on a deadline. And I got to thinking during this process how everyone kept telling me that 20 slides on 20 seconds is a completely daunting task. And what I started to recognize was that for the last 23 years of my life, I've lived with time in a way that very few ever contemplate. Every day I wake up and I'm on a timeline. What do I choose to do with my time, and what can I do today? So in this next slide, I'd like you to join me in feeling what 20 seconds feels like. So take a deep breath and see. Now, during this process, I learned to appreciate that the story I wanted to tell you wasn't the story that I needed to tell you. And in fact, the story I need to tell you is this is what I choose to do. This is me. I choose to push. I choose to fight, and I choose to create. These pieces of art. So see me for my art. See me for my duplication mutation, and see me for my hands that are slowly curling into fists. See me for my passion, and see me for my art, and witness with me that I stand here, almost 44 years old, and I don't know how much time I have left. 2 months, 2 years, hopefully 2 decades. But I think about it every day. Time. And the time that we have left. I choose to create with outstanding collaborators. I choose to make art in this amazing community. And I choose to stand for as long as I can. What will you choose to do with your time? And that is the story that I needed to tell.